Welcome, everybody. And Coach, thank you so much. You've been over to the business school many, many times, but this is the first time you've invited all of us to your house. So.
Yeah, and just be careful, all right? Just, we didn't trust you, so we put matting down.
So I'm going to dispense with all the introductory remarks about how you've done all these incredible things. Let's just say greatest of all time, and let's get to it.
We're in the room. Let's put it that way. We're in the room.
Yeah. So one of the things that you don't get to be in those stratospheric levels without incredible intensity.
Right.
And I think people are surprised how hot your fire burns. I mean, it really burns hot. Now, the thing is with people who really burn hot is that they can either burn out or they can mellow out. And so what's allowed you to sustain that intensity over this long arc of your career, and it's still going?
Yeah, I think one of the very first things is you try to do what you love. And I make a lot of money now, and but I should make more. I earn it. And you want to see a bottom line? I'll show you a bottom line. But that's not, when I'm doing what I wanted to do since I was 16, and that's coach. And so I don't know how you ever burn out doing what you love. I think it's impossible. In fact, your fire grows if you're doing it for that, because you learn more about what you love, and you know that there's even more to learn. And so, we've won a lot, and I've never used materialistic goals for myself. How many wins? I never thought we'd win championships like that. I mean, dreamed of it, but I never thought I'd be an Olympic coach and win championships. And so I don't put any substance into that. It's just, I want to do what I like to do. I'm 71 years old. And I feel, I don't know what a 71-year-old is supposed to look like, and probably not as good as a 61-year-old is, but I feel great. And I think doing what you love keeps you young. And in what I'm doing, I'm always around young people who you have to stay current with them up to a point, but you learn to adapt to culture, which I graduated from West Point in 1969, and I was an Army officer for 5 years, a captain. I can tell you that the guys I graduated with they're not doing what I'm doing. They're smoking a pipe or smoking something, but they're not. I'm not. That's cool. Whatever the hell they're doing, but I'm doing what I like to do, and I'll do it for as long as I can. And I got a great family, and being at a great place. I don't know. You've watched the NCAA tournament, and one of the great stories in there is Loyola of Chicago. That's where I'm from, Chicago. And Sister Jean and all that. Yeah, she's not really a nun. That's somebody that they paid to impersonate a nun. And she's too good. Something's wrong with that. I had nuns and they broke my fingers right in it. And but I have a Sirius XM show that we've had for 13 years. And the last show we did this year, their coach was on. And he's now getting hit with offers. And I said, what about that? And he says, well, that's good. And he says, one of my friends told me something that is really good. And this is a really good thing. He said, don't run away from happiness. In your pursuit of something, make sure if you're happy and you're doing stuff, I don't know, you got to be careful. And The thing is, can you always put yourself in a position to be happy? I'm at Duke, are you kidding me? And I'm happy. I'm happy. So that type of balance and following your heart and what you want to do, I think has served me well. Let's put it that way.
We're happy that you're happy.
Thank you.
So one of the interesting things that I've seen in terms of our interactions over the recent years is the one and done era has actually increased the demands on you. And just two examples. One is you have to do a lot more recruiting.
Right.
But the other thing is, because you've got younger players, you actually talk about how you have to give more of yourself to those players. You don't have the experienced people, and so you've got to show the way more. And so the fact that you have to give more, is that energizing, or is it tiring to have to do that?
It's a change, where people think that guys just knock on our door and say, hey, I want to come. That doesn't happen. You got, especially the top people, it's intense to recruit them. So I was just down in Miami recruiting and then visiting the Heat facilities and going to a Heat game about a week and a half ago. And Shane Battier finished his career, and he works for the Heat now. And I was talking to him, and I said, for you, he was a Wooden Award winner, one of our guys in 2001. And I recruited him for a couple years. Not every day, but you recruit him. And he was here for 4 years. If he was here today, he probably would be here for 1 year. So in order to get 4 Shanes, literally it's 8 years of recruiting instead of the 2. That's how it's changed. And in that regard, so now the other thing, it's with texting and all the stuff that you can do now, you can stay on it a little bit more than you did before. But I do that every night. Although last night I was in Glens Falls, New York, recruiting. Came back, got here at midnight. But if I'm home, I'll text 5 or 6 kids a night, just to stay active.
With emojis?
Sometimes, yeah. I'm more of a bitmoji than an emoji. I'd rather have them see my face than all these caricature. By the way, like people send that crap back to you, and they don't say a word, but they'll send like 10 emojis in a row, and you're supposed to understand it. Do you really understand it, or are you just like, oh man, that was cool? That was really cool. But the other aspect, Bill, that you mentioned, and this is the toughest one, is we created a really good culture here. And a culture is taught by the people living in the culture. So my infrastructure is maintained the same pretty much, and they're great. They're surrounded by good people, the guys, but we don't have the upperclassmen that we used to have. Or the upperclassmen we have may not be the most talented player on the team. So the upperclassmen might not teach the culture to the level because they feel like they can't tell somebody that they're better, who's more talented than them. So how we try to get around that, and that we're actually going through a little bit of a drill right now with my group, with our managers, and my managers are big in teaching the culture because we have about 12, 14 of them, and they are here for 4 years. And after we lost to Kansas in the Elite Eight on the Monday when we got back, the first group that I met with was my managers. And I met with them up in our theater in the practice facility, and I thanked them. And we have 4 senior managers. We want to make sure that they're all taken care of, how we can help them, and because they've helped us. But then I asked all of them, my wife and I were going to get away for a few days. I said, by Wednesday, I'd like each one of you to write up your observations. What did you like? What didn't you like? And what do you think could be better? And it was really, they all did it. They did it well. I took it with me, and a lot of good stuff, and then stuff, man, this happened that shouldn't have happened, and whatever. And I got a little pissed about it. Not at them, but there were a couple things that they mentioned that, I'm not saying that they're not true, like somebody was disrespectful and they acted like idiots. And our managers tolerated it. And so I'm in the process now of working with them, saying, like, you can't tolerate that. Like, I got your back, man, and it's a thing when you get going and wherever you're going to go, I believe is tiered leadership. That for culture to really be substantive and sustained, you need to empower people at every level. Everyone's important. Everyone has ownership, but everyone has the opportunity to lead. And like in the military, if I was company commander, I'd have 3 platoons, and the platoons would either have 3 or 4 squads. Well, the squad leader should take care of things at the level of the squad, unless it can't be. The platoon leader should take care of it, and then I should take care of it as the company commander. And if it's not taken care of, then something that's really should be confronted right there. It can get bigger by the time I get it, or it's more deep-rooted. If you're gonna kill a weed, kill it right away. Don't let it grow, and don't let it develop others. So that's part of, in sustaining it and these changes. How do you keep that going? How do you keep that going? And we're in the process. Again, we're in good shape, but there's slippage. There's more slippage, I think, including on the court, because you can't teach them as much. And I don't particularly like that, but that's what the hell. That's the way it is. There's some things you're not going to like, and you got to make them work.
So you were talking about your military background, and I'm combining 2 of your quotes, but from West Point, you learned you will fail, but failure is not a destination.
Right.
And yet you're working with a bunch of young men who have experienced a lot of success and haven't heard that they failed at something, haven't built up necessarily the resilience that comes with failure. So what do you do, both in your personal life, because no matter how many times you end the season with a championship, the majority of the times you don't. So how do you build the personal resilience and then the team resilience?
Yeah, well, it's easier personally because, look, for us, and it's a good place to be in, for as long as I'm here, we're going to be picked high. 1, 2, 3. And you're picked by people who haven't seen anybody. I haven't even coached my team yet, and you're picked. And we're picked, especially, we're in a media climate that's not the greatest for our program. It's kind of like media bias in our country is at the all-time high. Whatever you believe in, you can find a network that will tell you that what you believe in is right. Just don't turn the channel, because the other one's going to tell you what you think is right. Hopefully we both think is the same. And but we live in a media biased environment here. No question. And so our story will always be a loss, not a win. And so, however, for me, that's easy to do it because I don't really give a crap about what you think. I mean, I do, Becca, what you think. I'm talking about the media. And again, the media's fine. I'm okay with it. I'm not going to live my life based on someone who's not as good at what I do telling me about what I do. All right? So, I don't know, it makes sense to me. But for my players, they don't benefit from a team building standpoint. Make sense? You know, like, boy, they're young. Could they do something? Oh, they did something. Oh, someone was hurt and they won. And none of that. So I got to make sure I'm building them up internally because it's really like what really big success does. The guy or girl or group that's old and experiences it all the time learns to handle that. But then the younger group never experiences that growth. I miss that. You know, I miss that. Like already we'll be voted 1 or 2 next year. No matter what. You know, no matter what. And then when we don't finish that, well, they fell short of expectations. You know, like just gotta be careful what I'm doing with my arms. You know, come on, man. You know, like we had a great year. You know, but they don't. I miss that aspect of growing with the 1986 team and going to our first Final Four, or in 2010, a group of older guys who got beat in the first round of the NCAA their freshman year, got killed in their junior year in the Sweet 16, and now they won the whole thing. We don't get that growth process. And so in a short period of time, we got to try to give as much as we can there. It's an interesting thing. And then where do you find out about how to do that?
Yeah.
Nowhere. You're the guys who are doing it.
So in terms of growth, let's talk about personal growth, which is it's been obvious for many years that a kind of a foundation of your success and your core belief system is you have to be a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
And early in your career, you made a point of going to all of the great coaches and learning from them and figuring out, how do I get better at my profession? And then one day you woke up and you realized everybody's coming to see me.
Right.
Then what do you do if you're a lifelong learner?
A couple things, or more than a couple things. The very first thing, I think I've learned the most from my family. One, my mom, who never went to high school, but she was a cleaning lady, but she was wise and good and whatever. But it was me and my brother. My brother, I have an older brother who passed about 3 years ago. He was a captain of the fire department in Chicago, big, good-looking guy. He stole all the looks of the family. And then I was left with big ears and big nose. And anyway, he was 6'6", 250, and he was my hero. And but it was just me and him. And then I went to all-boys Catholic high school. West Point was all male at that time. And the Army, basically, in combat arms was all, as field artillery, was all male. I lived in a male world. And and my wife and I got married on graduation day at West Point. And she's a hell of a girl, hell of a woman. And we'll celebrate our 49th wedding anniversary on June 4th. And we were fortunate that the basketball gods gave me 3 daughters. And if I had 5 more kids, I'd want 5 more daughters. And I learned the strength of a woman, the intelligence, and the sensitivity of how they look in detail at things, just from being at a family dinner and never being allowed to speak, all right? No, literally. Yeah, we're playing North Carolina. Dad, Just, Mom, this is what happened. Can you believe that she said, anyway. But to get that advice, I'm telling you, and my oldest daughter, you guys know my daughter Debbie is so good, and she's tough and good, Lindy and Jamie, and I've really learned so much from them, and the only thing is they want more facts than, like a guy, at least me, I'll hear something, I say, and I'll tell my wife, this happened. Well, what about this? I said, I didn't ask. What, you didn't ask? What's important? I said, I didn't ask. What about this? I didn't ask that either. He says, how the heck could you get that information and not, anyway, that's, anyway. The other aspect of personally, get out of your lane. Like I started speaking for the Washington Speakers Bureau in about 1992. And I got a chance now to speak to thousands of people, to 50, but different companies, different groups. And when you speak for someone, you do a scouting report on them. They're either doing well, what's the theme of the event, what are you trying to accomplish? Holy mackerel, you learn so much. And then that prompted me for us to form a relationship with Fuqua over two decades ago. I said, well, who on campus should be doing this here? And so with Fuqua in the medical school, Duke Medical, I tried to develop a relationship to learn from excellence. And then for 11 years, it ended in Rio for the Olympics. For 11 years, I coached the U.S. team. And I learned so much from other coaches, but also coaching that level of people. And I'm a better coach right now than I was 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And whatever you're going to be in, you should try to be better than you used to be. And but that's exciting, it's exciting. And so those things are kind of, because you don't go to a clinic. You give a clinic, except I hate doing clinics. I don't like doing clinics anymore. I actually did a great business thing. I'm under contract with Nike for a long time. And so in my last Nike contract, a number of years ago, I said, would you put in there that I have to make 3 appearances for you, and you will not allow me to do clinics? So they put it in. So every time I'm asked, look, I'm under contract. I can't do a clinic. I swear to God. Hopefully you have to learn how to say no the right way. And so contractually, that's got me out of, the other thing that's got me out of stuff is not golfing. Well, you got to go to this golf. I don't golf. If you want me to bring my lab and do some gardening, I'll do that, but I'm not golfing. Learning to say no and having people say no for you is huge. Huge. It's a big time thing.
Yeah. So you've always been capable of showing your emotions, but
that was nice. That was nice.
But over the years, you've been showing a fuller range of emotions, and it's become clear that you're not embarrassed to show your vulnerability. And so, my question is, where did this come from in terms of how you've developed, and has it made you a better leader?
Yeah, I think it. And again, I'll go back to my wife and my daughters for that. Where at least guys of my age, how we were brought up, some false ideas about what tough is. And it was okay to do that, where it wasn't okay to do that for a while because you weren't being this guy. But by doing it, or showing it, you actually became more of a guy. more of a person, more of a, you know, and so I'm good about that. Not with officials, all right? Yeah. Despicable human beings. They're dumb as rocks and poor judgments, and you go down the list of things.
Yeah. So one of the other very clear themes, and you've already talked about it multiple times, is the importance of family in your life.
Yeah.
And that's as a brother, as a son, as a husband, as a father. And so a question that always is of relevance to someone who's so successful in their profession is, how do you maintain those family commitments against all of the commitments you have in your professional life?
Well, because you want to. I think that's the very first thing. And 3 surprises for me in life, and they're great surprises, was the first one is I never thought that my kids would be my best friends. My daughters are my best friends. I got their back, they got my back. I'm still judging their husbands, but their kids are also really good friends, our 10 grandkids. But because I was not friends with my parents. They worked all the time. My dad died when I was a senior at West Point. I didn't know my dad. He worked. You know, that's what they did. And the second thing is how great grandchildren are. I got 10 of them, and Maddie's going to be 1-year-old this week, and Joey's going to graduate. He's 18, and he's going to graduate from Durham Academy. And to have them all here is magnificent. It's so damn good. And the third thing is, on my staff, I only hire my former players. And that I'm best friends with my former players. I would never, they're just, you know, people gifts that we sometimes don't see in the horizon, but they're there. They're there. You know, and then for me, it's just, it helps you keep balance, and then I love dogs, especially labs. And I love my dog, Blue, you know. He's a yellow. I've had 2 others. Defense was a black. And Cameron was a chocolate. And we live on a lot of land, and I love to be out with him and plant stuff and cut stuff up, and, you know, just, he's my buddy, you know, he's my buddy. And when we get away from the girls for a while, you know, just the 2 guys. He hasn't learned to drink wine like me, but we'll keep him away from that.
So, like it or not, we're now moving into a world where rules are going to become more prominent, in the sense of we're moving into the age of artificial intelligence, and what's behind AI is rules so that you can code these things. You've never been a fan of rules. You've been a fan of standards. So what don't you like about rules, and what do you like about standards? Well,
You know, again, I understand rules up to a point, but standards are really rules that you own. You know, like when we have our Olympic team or whatever, how do you guys feel? Well, we should never be late, or, oh, well, instead of me saying if you're late, they own it. You try to develop a climate, an environment where this is the way you live. You respect one another. The thing I hate the most about rules is that they're not yours. They're imposed upon you. And there's not much latitude. You know, when I went to West Point, it was all rules, man. And I hated it. You know, I got screwed one time at West Point. and it really turned me off about rules even more. I was a senior, and I'm dating my wife, and the whole Corps of Cadets is away for the Army-Navy football game. And I play for Coach Knight. Of course, we're not going to be at the football. We're going to be practicing twice a day that day or whatever. And so we have a morning practice, and I go and have lunch with Mickey, and the rest of the team goes to the dining hall. And they're the only group there, and usually you have to be in the proper attire. So they're in parkas and T-shirts, and the officer in charge says, "Who's the captain of this team?" You know, Mike Krzyzewski. So I'm written up, and I have to go in front of a board, and they say, "Well, we're going to punish you with an 8 and 8, 8 tours, 8 demerits and 8 tours of walking with a rifle." I said, "That's bullshit," you know. I mean, and like I said, "Sir, I wasn't there. How was I?" Now, if they were in my company, they were my squad, then I'm responsible. I'm responsible for them on the court, not what the hell they're doing in life. And I was really adamant about this, and they reduced, but they still punished me. And because I was a player, I couldn't walk the area. I had to sit confinements. I said, "Okay, we are not going to do that crap anymore." You know, like, there was no latitude in that. And as a leader, you got to be careful about too many rules, because it puts you in a closet for leadership. You don't have the flexibility of leadership. You know, like Tommy Amaker, who's the head coach at Harvard, was as good a player as ever here. One day when he was a senior, he was late for the bus for 5 minutes. And usually if it was a freshman, our bus would go. So the bus stayed, and then someone asked me, you know, "Well, you didn't treat him the same." I said, "Well, Amaker and that stinking freshman aren't the same. He's built up some equity. There's probably a reason he was late." It gives you the latitude to lead a little bit more. So be careful not to rule yourself in a box. That doesn't mean don't have rules, but be careful about them, because rules should not take the place of sound judgment and making choices and making decisions. And as a leader, I'd rather have more flexibility of leadership. And so anyway, it's a long answer, but it's a pretty interesting concept, you know. And you don't make rules to cover your ass, you know. Like, okay, it's the rule. Okay, what's the situation? What are we dealing with right now? Now, a breaking of a rule might be the consequence of a situation that should have been taken care of. And the rule then was broken because of this situation. By just penalizing the breaking of the rule, you've never taken care of the situation. Crap like that, I think, as a leader, I would want the freedom to do that, and I'll bear whatever consequences it is by making different decisions in different situations. I'd rather have that on me than the other. So the freedom to lead, I'm not sure if that's a concept that's taught or whatever, but I like that. I like that. I like that a lot.
So another area where it may surprise people in terms of your flexible view around your talent is people assume you want everybody to subvert themselves to the team, but you actually believe that you want players to have big egos. You want a team ego too, but
Right.
but you don't want someone to step back from who they are. What?
No, in fact, this morning we had a huge group in here. An amazing thing here this morning with the hospitals, and we were talking about, I was talking about coaching the U.S. team, and at the very first time you meet with them, we're developing our culture, and you have LeBron James and Kobe Bryant and all these guys. you big time room. And the head of USA Basketball, Jerry Colangelo, talked, before I talked, and he said, look, I want you guys to leave your egos at the door and let's come right in here. And it was a good talk, but when I got up, I said, look, this will be the only time I disagree with Jerry. I don't want you to leave your egos at the door. LeBron, I want you to be LeBron. Kobe, Kobe. I know when we play Gasol, the Gasols from Spain, or Ginobili and Scola from Argentina, they're going to have their egos. I said, but what I would want you to do is put all of our egos under the USA umbrella. And, but be you, but be us in this. And a real interesting thing to create ownership of for everybody in the group is, at that same meeting, I told them, you are not playing for the US. So I know they're thinking, we should have gotten a pro coach here. When does the incense and bells start coming out? And I said, now, I want to explain that, which I know you want me to explain. You are not playing for the US. You are USA Basketball. Understand the difference. And in any group that I'm in, I don't want them playing for me or playing for Duke. I want them to be Duke. Get ownership. And it sounds simple, but it's amazingly strong. When I have the honor of talking to some military units, I do that quite a bit, and did it a lot when we were the Olympic coach because we had the military come to us. Whenever, sometimes you talk to a group that's going to be deployed or whatever, understand that the group you're fighting against, it's always an away game for you. Thank goodness. The group that you're fighting, they own it. And so your level of feeling in not owning that territory or whatever, it has to be filled with the belief in what you're fighting for and who you're fighting with. Otherwise, you're not going to do well. You're not going to do well because they have a home court advantage. They have that ownership already there. So how you create ownership is key to success of any group that you're in.
Yeah. So speaking of kind of belief, you recently wrote an incredible letter to your younger self. Yeah. And if I were to summarize that letter, kind of two big things. Number one, don't ever forget yourself as a kid and your dreams and the imagination you had as a kid, because that's what fueled your ability to accomplish so much. Number two, be nicer to your mother.
Nicer.
Nicer. Oh,
nicer.
Yeah. Be nicer to your mother, but really the message was she worked so hard to get you where you can go. Don't ever forget where you came from. So how is it that you remind yourself of these things, that it's so important to remember who you are and where you come from? Because many times when people reach a level of success, they lose themselves. So how do you keep yourself in the right space?
Having daughters helps you. They keep you grounded. But actually, that was a thing for CBS. They do a thing, a letter to yourself, and they've had different people doing it. And they did a great production. And actually, my daughter, Jamie, my youngest daughter, we've written 2 books together. She wrote it, and then I added, and then CBS did some things. And they did a great production of it. And my best friend is still my buddy Mo. We've been friends since we were 6. And the guys I grew up with in Chicago were the same. Again, I've been the lucky, not necessarily the lucky one. I've been a different path. I'm not saying they haven't been lucky, because they've had good lives. And, just be a real person, You know, at the end of the day, like, I can't believe all this crap has happened. You know, like, but in that letter, you know, I believe in imagination. I think it's one of the things that kids today are robbed of. They're overstimulated and whatever. I know when I grew up in the inner city of Chicago. It's a protected area, right in the inner city. My parents would let me go to the schoolyard. There wouldn't be any parents there. And when I was 8, I used to, okay, we got 8 guys, we're gonna play this now. What do you mean we're gonna play this right now? And you started leading when you were 8. You started imagining, well, there are only 2 of us. Well, let's think of a game that the 2 of us can play. And let's set up the rules for it. Nobody was there, and you're shooting a ball, and you imagine yourself winning. I mean, why would you imagine yourself that? Instead of somebody having to stimulate you to do that. You know, and like this morning I had to give a real big talk to this group well, I don't use notes or anything like that, but I prepare. And even from flying back last night from recruiting, you know, I just closed my eyes for about 15 minutes and I would visualize myself on stage talking and trying to get an order of how I wanted to present. And thinking, when I tell that joke, well, man, they're gonna laugh, you know, and they did, you know, and the power of visualization and imagination, I think, is not, it's not advocated to the level it needs to be. And for me, it's worked out. You know, it's worked out. You know, so it's some of those things. Someone says, did you dream of it? Yes. Did I ever think it was going to happen? I wasn't completely sure they were going to happen. But I did dream of them, you know. As a player, though, I would have rather have won it than coached it, you know. But then with my own players, you know, like there are guys that have played, especially for 4 years, that you see yourself in, you know. The kid I identified the most here, and I gave really the most freedom, was Bobby Hurley. And holy crap, could he play. And the more freedom I gave him, the more I looked good, you know. And I'd say, man, I wish that was me. Yeah, I still, you know, back, and you guys feel it, I'm jealous of my players that they are able to play here. The rush of that. I feel it as a coach, but how would I feel if I'm a player in that? Holy mackerel. And so imagination, visualization, I think are huge. I still do a lot of it. Look, I'm 71. I'm imagining what my team might do next year. You know, that you know, not just studying, but okay, where does it go when you just like free think about what might happen, and it keeps it interesting. You know, it keeps it fresh and exciting.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to be there for one of those moments in 2015 with you and the team as we're celebrating, and you stood up in front of the crowd and you said, "This, you know, I've had an amazing run of success, but this is the most meaningful championship I've ever won in my life." Yeah. I was standing next to Grant Hill and Shane Battier when you said that, and they kind of looked at each other and said, "I don't think so. You know, he'll come to his senses." I said, "You know, do you really think he means that?" He says, "He's just in the moment, just in the moment." And then a few weeks later, I was at an event with you and you said the same thing. So it wasn't in the moment. So do you still feel that way about that championship?
Yeah, I've stopped answering questions about who my favorite player of all time was or team. But with that team, because it had so many freshmen, and we got down to 8 guys in late January, It was, and the 8th guy ended up winning the game in Grayson. You know, like it was just like, holy crap, we just won. You know, we just won. I will say that each one is its own entity. They're different than winning for your country. We've won 2 world championships and 3 Olympics, and it's pretty big time when, you know, they got gold medals around their necks and the national anthem's being played, and it's the world. It's a pretty good feeling, you know. And for me to be in 10 of those is you know, holy mackerel. And I want to be in more, but I don't want it put on a player. I'm not going to coach the Olympics anymore. A good friend, Greg Popovich, is coaching him, and I'll help him a little bit with that, but I'm never going to coach the U.S. again. But I don't want my next Duke team to think they're trying to win our 6th. I would like to say we're trying to win our 1st in that regard. But, you know, those moments are unbelievable. I mean, they're crazy. It's a real quick story with Battier and Dunleavy. So my family and I, we host a wine celebration in Napa Valley every August for the V Foundation. It's a big time event. It raises anywhere from $8 to $12 million, and it's at Farniente, Nickel. It's a big time thing. And we take a Duke group and we do tours of wine. And there's this one, actually, the girl was a graduate of Duke, April Gargiula. And we have you ever heard, there's a cult wine called Screaming Eagle. None of you have had it, neither have I. If you ordered it, it'd be like over $1,000 a bottle. Their vineyard's like right there, and Gargiula's is right next to it. So it means, come on, some of the grapes have to be a little bit like the same, you know? And so we have this luncheon of the Duke group, and with some of Grant and some of the former players, just a few of them are there. And it's like being in Italy. It's a great thing. So all of a sudden, Battier and Dunleavy are really, they think they're really smart and funny. Yeah, they are, but not to the level that they think they are. So all of a sudden, people are toasting, and all of a sudden, you know, they hit the glass. They said, you know, Shane and Mike said, we have a toast to Coach K's middle daughter, Lindy. And here's a toast to Lindy, the middle child, and to those guys who are on the middle national championship. Yeah, that's what kind of knuckleheads they are. So we toasted that. Wine was pretty good. I said, why don't we toast some of the other teams now too, you know, and take it that. But they're all great, and hopefully you get a chance for another one.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'll turn it over to the audience for questions, which is, you've never been shy of high expectations. You've always had a great imagination. So where does the next first championship go in terms of the banner?
We'll find room, I'm sure. Just like hopefully you guys, the women will win theirs. And, you know, the one cool thing about this place, it's all championships. There are no NIT participants or, you know, NCAA participants. That's one of the cool things about this place. It's and the other thing for retired jerseys, you have to have graduated and you have to win a national honor, be a National Player of the Year or whatever. So the standard's pretty high, and they should be, because we got the best school, and I'm convinced about that. So, but we'll find room, and that's a nice problem to have.
Okay, questions?
Right here at this mic.
There's a mic that's right there. If you walk up to the mic.
Hi. Okay, so the Duke-Carolina rivalry is this like super massive thing. So are you like personally, do you have this like Carolina go to hell mentality, or are you like pretty nonchalant about it?
I'm very nonchalant about it. You know, actually, your question is a great one. In the 80s, when I got here, my first 3 years, we were 38 and 47, and we were building a program. And Carolina had Jordan and those guys for more than 1 year, and Virginia had Sampson and whatever. And we finally beat North Carolina. And the bookstore made up a bumper sticker with the score of the game. And I saw it, and it really, it pissed me off. So I went over there and I said, look, don't sell any more of those. We will never have a bumper sticker beating another team. The only bumper stickers we have are if we win a championship, ACC, Final Four or whatever. Like, I would never want any school to think that they're our championship. And I would not want my team to do that. Like, we want to beat everybody. That doesn't mean that game isn't big. We understand it's big. But if you start doing that, then your goals are, boom, you don't deserve to win. And so I don't get caught up in that at all. In the last couple of days, one of the great men who was at Duke, Vic Bubas, passed away. And his service is next Tuesday in Virginia, and I talked to his daughter and wife yesterday. And he actually started Duke basketball, whether it be men's or women. He started in the 60s. They went to 3 Final Fours, and they were really good. And then he stopped coaching. And when I took over here, he befriended me and was really a good man. And he never offered a lot of advice, but one bit of advice, he said, don't look down the road. Build your own thing and only look at what you're doing, because it eats up. Just like in business, you might be competitive against a certain company. Be careful, man. Be competitive with the excellence that you're trying to achieve. So I don't get caught up in that at all. Just like for me, they always try to find something you're not as good in. So they'll figure out, what's your record on Mondays? What's your record against another coach? Saturday afternoons, you're only 600. Saturday night, you're this. They'll find something that you're not going to. Come on, man. That's the only thing we're concerned about. So we got more than any of you. And it's hard to win those things. Somebody will say, recruit a little bit differently, or this team won. Look, at the end of the day, people win different ways. You have to find out how you can win your way in your environment. As soon as you start copying everybody, well, you should have done this, and you know what you should do? You should go walk your dog or do something. Or stick. Never mind. Just walk your dog. It's better. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for being here with us today. Interested to hear, you've talked a lot about learning from excellence and USA basketball. What are some of the key takeaways that you've had by coaching, the Kobe's, LeBron's, Barkleys of the world?
The professionalism. You cannot believe how they work. And I learned a lot from the first meeting I had with Kobe, LeBron, and Jason Kidd. And I said, look, we're going to have 2 practices a day. One will be a little bit of contact, the other one no contact. And they're looking. He says, Coach, we can't do that. I said, what do you mean? I said, we only have a short period of time. I said, Coach, we just played 100 games in the NBA. Like, give us time. We each have our own routine. We'll do things in the morning. Let's eat breakfast, have a meeting, practice. Don't condition. We condition ourselves. And then give us time after practice for the guys who want it then. And reserve a gym at night for those guys who want to come back. I'm telling you, morning yoga, Pilates, weight training, something. Practice, not that much. A lot of guys after the practice would stay long. Guys at night came all the time. And we adapted to their best habits. And then you learn from them. You would like this, because Steph Curry. So I've coached Steph twice. The last time in the 2014 World Championships. And you watch how they practice, their routines. So he's not a great athlete, he's a good athlete, but he's got a real quick release. So he does, you see him doing all this stuff on TV and all that, he's not doing that, privately, And I said, what do you do? And he said, I put an imaginary box around me. And in that box, I do things balance-wise that aren't just a shot fake or whatever, where I do this, which I'm always going to be guarded by a guy who's a better athlete than me, probably bigger. But I have a quick release, and if I have a short window, a small window, I can get my shot off. I just got to get them to commit. And he would practice all this. It's beautiful. It's freaking beautiful, how what LeBron does. He stretches 45 to 60 minutes before every ball game. And he has had the same guy doing his stuff since he was 20. They're so damn precise. And then the language of, not the language like trash talk or whatever, but how they see a situation and they use really quick language, color codes, stuff like that. Good stuff. Yeah, really unbelievable stuff. Yeah.
One, Coach, thank you so much for being a leader and inspiration for myself and many others. Over the years, you've had so many great staff members work with you. Recently, we have John Shire, Nolan Smith, but we also have some who are departing, like Jeff Capel. What's the most important thing you tell them at the beginning of their time with you, and what's the most important thing at the end of their time?
Well, one, I think, I have my former guys do it. All of them have been captains of the team. I wouldn't bring a guy in just because he was a captain and he played for me. I have to have seen something in them that they can coach. And I give them a lot of freedom. Yeah, the longer I've coached, the more I believe in more voices. That one person shouldn't dominate, or else you get tired of the voice. And sometimes somebody can say something in a different voice or a little bit different words that will resonate. And so I only want a guy on my staff who wants to be a head coach. And then when they do go on to coach, the thing I would tell them is to be themselves. Don't worry about you don't have to give me plaudits or anything, or you be you. Just be you, and we'll be there to help you, and be careful about who you hire as staff. And in that, never hire just because of friendship, or it's some kind of perceived loyalty because someone's your friend. Now, you can hire a friend who's qualified, but surround yourself with people that will complement the strengths and weaknesses that you have. And be careful of overscheduling. Be smart about how you schedule, and don't recruit bad guys. Don't recruit bad guys. You don't want to live with, it's a long season. It's a long season. You want to live with good people. Yeah.
Seth, this is going to have to be the last question because Coach has got to get going here. So apologies to those of you still waiting.
Well, thanks again for being here, Coach. My question is...
Do you feel pressure? This is the...
This is it. The last second shot.
It's like 3, 2, time out.
So-
Time out.
My question is, with the prevalence of the one and done era now in basketball, and always bringing in all these talented players who have the freedom to go to the NBA after 1 year, how have you had to adapt your leadership style to try and get everyone on the same page within this expedited timeline, as opposed to in the past when you had 4 years?
Yeah, well, you have to adapt to the current culture of whatever your business is in, whether it be regulations and finance or whatever. We're the slaves of the NBA and the Players Association. They determine one and done. College doesn't determine one and done. And for us, a lot of people say we've changed in our recruiting. We have not changed in our recruiting. We try to recruit talent that can win at a high level, talent that can go to school here, and good guys. And and we do a good job with them. None of the guys that come in lose value. They usually gain value. And they've been successful in the NBA. So guys like Luke Kennard didn't come here to go early. But, we find out he's going to be somewhere between 15 and 22 in the draft. We tell him, you got to go, man. May not happen for you like that. And obviously, if a kid's a lottery pick or whatever, or what their family needs. The thing for us is that it's tough to get as much in. You would like, if you're a body of water, you would like to be an ocean. If we can get to be a lake, or, that would be good. We're not going to be like 92 and 2001 and 10. We might be like 15, where you have 3 big-time freshmen in there, and you're going to have to play against people that are veterans. And I was speaking to a Duke parents group Saturday, and good people, and one of the parents asked, well, Villanova just won. I said, that's very observant of you. They did. You're right on the first box. And they didn't have one and dones. And I said, you're right. They have some pros right now, Brunson and Bridges and those guys, but you're right. And I said, well, why don't, I said, well, we would have played them, if we might have beaten them. Then would you have asked me that question? I mean, it's not that far apart. But the other thing, Jay Wright and I are really good friends. And he'll tell you that a lot of what they do, they've modeled after our program. And I say, so if Jay Wright has a chance to recruit Bagley says, I'm interested in Villanova. Do you think Jay Wright is not going to recruit him? Come on. Come on, man. Of course you are. And so we're just in that wheelhouse of, that's where we're at right now. Now, in our future recruiting and what we're doing, we're trying to find some guys that would be here longer, some guys that might not be here as long, and have a mix. But it's not that, we're not going to a shopping mall and get, okay, let's get this guy for one and this guy. It's not like that. And and then I don't know what will happen this summer. They have a commission that's studied, Condoleezza Rice and a bunch of really learned people have studied our game, and they're supposed to come up with recommendations in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see where the NCAA stands with that. My personal feeling is the NCAA is in some ways archaic in how they do things. They expect every sport in the NCAA to be done the same way. It's impossible to do that. And it's not happening now. Baseball and hockey players can have agents. You know, Trajan Langdon in the late 90s played for us. He was a professional baseball player. His scholarship was paid by a Major League Baseball team. He made money, but he was a pro in baseball and an amateur in basketball. Come on, you're one or the other, you know. And we need to adopt more Olympic rules where basically a 16-year-old kid who's really talented, who has a chance at some time to be a pro, starts a journey of about 22 years or so, say 16 to 38. In that journey, so many people benefit from his journey. The high school, the AAU program, the college, whether he's there, and then the pros. Everybody who is part of that kid and his family's journey should be on the same page about making that journey the right way. So I'd be a proponent for a kid in high school to have an agent, if they want it, to have an advocate, and to change the amateurism rules for a collegiate player in any sport, so that they would be able to not then be a pro because you have an agent and get guidance along the way. And whether the NBA, Adam Silver's great, you know, Michelle Roberts, the Players Union are good people. How could they coordinate a G League? Does a kid have to go to college? You know, my feeling is a kid should have complete freedom to either not go to college, or if they're in college, to leave at any time, just like any student does. You know, somebody who has that level of talent, and sometimes the families should benefit early from it. And they talk about shoe company influence and all that. If we didn't have shoe companies, our sports programs would be in sad shape. You know, as far as the money that they give in support of what we do here at Duke for all sports, and for what they do for the development of basketball. It just needs to be coordinated. And if people can make money when they're 16, or do something where they can have an agent to help them, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Just like if a kid could sing and act or whatever, you know. In my Sirius XM show, my first guest this year was Dale Earnhardt Jr., okay? And you know, I studied her profiles and all that. So I said, and you know, Coach, it's such an honor to be on. I said, Dale, you know, when did you start driving? He said, when I was 14. And I said, well, that's not legal. He said, Coach, come on, man. You know, I said, so did you go to college? He said, Coach, you know, I was earning money before I went to college. It was all right for him. He's a you know, many times he's earned it. He had a talent. Not everybody needs to go here, you know, and but if they go here, then they should do it the right way and not be under any kind of stigmas or one and done or this is bad or whatever. But that journey is something, maybe I'm too idealistic in that, but all I know is I didn't win those things because of me. I won it because of these guys. And these people should always be taken care of by everybody who benefits from them. And I don't think we do a good job of that right now, including the NCAA. And NCAA, the men's college basketball tournament, pays for 98% of what the NCAA does, just from that tournament. From the tournament. You know, and we don't have anybody who runs men's college basketball. We don't have a commissioner. We don't have, like, ridiculous. And part of the reasons they don't do this journey as well is because who will Adam Silver and Michelle Roberts talk to that represents NCAA basketball? A committee? You don't have a relationship with a committee. You have a relationship with Bill or Mike or people, and that's how you figure this out. And it's very disappointing. We're very negligent in what we've done for our game in an administrative point of view in relationship to what we should do for a kid and his family. I think we're way, way behind. We'll see if we catch up now, but I'm not optimistic about it. Yeah, so long answer, but there's a lot that's going to come out, and that's how I feel about it. And the thing, when I say something, if I haven't, it's never going to be listened to because they think we're trying to manipulate something. It's crazy. It's a crazy-ass world. It's
So on that note, let me quickly wrap up. I'd like to say two things. First of all, this has been an historic year for Fuqua and Duke basketball. This is the first year that any of our students have been drafted, and so we have a third-round draft pick in the WNBA and a first-round draft pick. So Becca Greenwell, Lexi Brown. Second thing is, again, Mike, thank you so much for bringing us into your house, and more than that, thank you for showing us all by example what it means to be a leader of consequence.
Yeah, well,
Thanks so
thank
much.
you, and thanks for your, thanks.